for sure.
All right, Brian. Thank you very much.
No bother, mate.
Cheers, thanks. Bye-bye. John O'Donovan's on line 2. Hiya, John.
Morning, Mick. How are you?
I'm good. You're afraid there will be civil disobedience in Ireland?
I think it's hidden that way if something isn't done here, because, as you know, next Saturday there's a huge march, anti-government marches over housing, health, everything, but a huge percentage of that march is the people that are unsettled as regards what's happening to migration into this country, the uncontrolled migration. There's nobody coming along, I certainly don't subscribe to it anyway, saying that we close the doors completely. If you come in here and you want to work, Mick, which many people have, my road alone, there's an Indian family, there's 2 coloured families, and there's Chinese, and we all get around together, and I salute them, no rank or no nothing. I go into the centre stores there inside and shop, they run very well. There's people from the Indian continent in there, very pleasant individuals to deal with, very friendly again. There's no one have any problems with that. Nurses work in hospitals, care homes, we need them, otherwise that sector would collapse. But what we don't need is people coming in here like with not being vetted, with no documentation, presenting themselves, right? Then having to be put up in exorbitant rents and contracts that have been given out to people, right? With millions being spent, right? 1.8 billion has been spent already on iPass centres, right? And yes, we can't build houses for the Irish people. Like what the government policies or non-policies are doing, Mick, right? They are making Cork people and everyone else in this country, they are turning people racist. What's happening now, people that have fear to raise their families for a while, and I know some of them, are now being shouted at in the street. Here's another one of them. Well, I'm sorry, that person is here and is an Irish citizen and is paying tax and bringing up their family and their children are going to school with your neighbour's children. But it's unfair now that they're being targeted, and the reason that's happening, and people are being attacked in the streets right around the country, they've been here for quite a while, Mick, and this is because of the non-policy, because if they had a policy, this wouldn't be working in the first place. When our own people are qualifying, highly educated young people, and are having to leave by one door, well, there's another door being opened, and there's a lot of people pouring in here with no documentation. They have no business here. That should be turned around overnight, and no one in the country would have a problem with that.
John, I was seeing on the British news over the last few days a record number of immigration, asylum seekers crossed the channel on rubber boats or whatever and got into the English coast. 1,000 of them in one day.
Last year alone, because 100,000 came into Great Britain. 100,000. No, that's
well, where I was going with this was that, you know, some of them will definitely find their way north across the small divide between Scotland and Northern Ireland and over a soft border and into Ireland. And I think that's a big contributor to what's happening here and why people are so upset.
They reckon that there could be, between buses and taxis coming from the north, no, quite right, that there could be up to 20 or 30 a day coming through that route. No, look, the hard border are supposed to be gone, but we need some kind of a system there, because we can't have people just coming in, because if that continues, I reckon at this stage, and the government won't admit it, Mick, they have no idea of how many illegal people are here. They have no idea whatsoever. And what I'm afraid of is that this will lead, you see what happened to Coolock and all these places, and then the guards decided to pepper spray the people and charge them and batten them and everything. And that didn't do the guards any favour either. There's huge unrest and a lot of annoyance towards the guards over this kind of stuff.
So what's your specific point, John? The legal working immigrants are more than welcome and have integrated as many of the Polish, as many of from the Philippines and from Malaysia and from Vietnam have in India into our health service. All welcome and all integrated very well until the floodgates opened and Ireland became a very attractive place to land.
Yeah, I just see it a moment before the weekend up in Connemara, a great area, like where the majority of people speak Irish, right? And the public audio unit turned up, there's a holiday village up there, and there's a load of need being put in there again, right? And the community were outraged, and they brought up the public audio unit, they ring-fenced the whole place, you couldn't even see the front door, parked the vans and the buses right outside the door. This is pure intimidation. They've done it on the Tipperary, they've done it in Coolock, they've done it right around the country, and it's not going down well. And what I'm afraid is that there's a lot of disenfranchised young people out there. We see what happened 2 years ago on the raid in Dublin. We want a reputation of that, but I mean, I tell you something, if this isn't stopped and someone says, hang on a second here, we'll have to have a look at this is wrong, and start deporting people and turning them around quickly and stop flooding small communities, right, with 20 or 30 or 40 or 5 or 6 or 700 young men of a certain age. Like, what the hell are they doing there in the first place in these rural areas? I can see trouble in the streets. I really can. Like,
John, in various countries over the decades, it's been almost impossible to criticise power. Let me go back to, for instance, Germany in the 1930s and 40s. You could not criticise the ruling party, the Nazi party, or Adolf Hitler. Let's look at, let's take America. And this is just off the top of my head. In America, it's almost impossible to criticise the Israeli lobby. In what Israel is doing in Gaza, it's almost impossible to vocally criticise Netanyahu or these movements without being called anti-Semitic. And in Ireland, it's almost impossible to have genuine concern and open your voice and speak against these unvetted migrants that are coming through. We're seeing it filter through in various news outlets about the protests, etc. But it's almost impossible to genuinely criticise that without being called a racist.
Well, this was it. And only for social media. Look, there's huge downsides to social media, but there's a huge upside as well, Mick, right? And only for social media and the interaction, the likes of the so-called mothership RT, right, and another culprit news talk, right, seem to be hell-bent, like, I mean, only pushing one narrative all the time. Only for social media, people and communities engaging with each other, right, they will never see what's going on. The government will just plough on regardless. They are taking the Irish people completely for granted. What's going on at the moment? When you think you're going back to 1916 and Pearson Connolly and all the lads there, regimen, they fought for something, right, to give us our freedom now, not to give it away now to Europe, because this thing has been controlled by Europe. Von der Leyen is imposing these policies on us, and Micheál Martin and Simon Harris is not standing up for the Irish people.
John, I'm hoping to be talking on the programme to Simon Harris this coming Friday. Not confirmed yet. But if it is, these are certainly questions I can put to him. We often see text coming through here that we're mainstream media and we're following the government narrative, and there's a big protest in town on Saturday and you won't mention it. So let's mention it, okay? There's a huge protest expected in town on Saturday. Thousands of people are expected to turn out from all over Ireland. Can you give me a little detail on what they're protesting?
Well, it's an anti-government protest, right? So that means everything, because we all see, and Neil has dealt with it many times, as regards the housing, as regards the people coming on, they can't get places for their special needs children in school, they can't get their elderly mother or father or grandparents seen or whatever. There's a myriad of reasons, right? They lack a guardian in the street, the criminality, there's the stuff that's not been implemented properly, sentencing in the court. But right up there as well, I said would be second, third on the list, would be migration at the moment. It's hugely unsettling for the Irish people what's happening at the moment, Nick. And I'm afraid, like you mean, that if something doesn't sort this out, and very, very quickly, I can see a lot of trouble and civil unrest in this country, right? Something maybe akin to what happened in North of Ireland, like, and it would be an absolute shame if that happened, like. And the only people that can stop that, if they want, Micheál Martin very recently, 2 years ago in the Dáil, said he doesn't believe in backward-looking sovereignty. I will go as far as to say Micheál Martin doesn't believe in sovereignty at all. And neither does Simon Harris, because if they did, they would be standing up for the Irish people. The Irish people are frightened. We see what happened to Ashton Murphy. We see what happened to the two gay guys up in Limerick, disemboweled and beheaded. We see the child that was stabbed in the street outside the crash up in Dublin. And there's a myriad of other stuff going on around the place there. I mean, are the government blind or what? Do they really think the Irish people are going to sit back and leave this go on? No, they're not.
They will say they're legally bound to accept all who apply. They will say they are legally bound by European statute to provide for all who legally apply, at least.
Have we lost our sovereignty completely? So when you have the president of Poland and you have the president in Hungary, right? They are not taking them in. I'm watching the stuff on up online there, and there's clips of people go out on Saturday night in Poland and Krakow and Warsaw and Gdansk and all these places. And the caption was, notice anything? And the answer back was, yeah, just Polish people out and join themselves. And instead here, like if they can get away with it and say no, we're not having this here, right? Why can't we have Martin stand up from the Irish people against the von der Leyen's? Like they say, no, this is a small country. We cannot have this. We cannot dilute. Of course, we take in genuine refugees.
All right, John. Listen, just as a counterbalance to your argument, Shane has texted in: how many undocumented Irish are there in other countries around the world?
Especially the undocumented Irish, I mean, it goes without saying, at the moment they're being rounded up and they're being sent home, and rightly so. If you're undocumented, you went into America, and if you exceed your visa, you deserve to be deported and never let in there again. So what's sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander.
All right, John. Very vocal as always. Do you know what time that protest is on Saturday, or where people will be gathering?
2 o'clock, and I would say get in there early, because, I mean, they're expecting this bigger crowd in Dublin, and if they do, there won't be enough footpath space in Cork City on Saturday. But if you care about this country and our sovereignty, like, get out there on Saturday.
And let's get out peacefully.
Oh, yes, completely, yeah.
Okay.
But what needs, look, and I'll finish on this, what needs to happen now, when this march, you see what happens, like in the march in Dublin, I know this march in Saturday, like, then the government say, actually, if they march up and down the street, they'll have a few speeches, and then they'll all go away, the dust will settle, and we'll throw on regardless. What you need is a sustained presence. You need to keep this thing going, like, because the government are keeping it going at the other side, so the people, if you want to hold on to your sovereignty, you need to keep it going.
All right, Saturday, City Centre, 2 p.m. Huge protest expected with people travelling from all over Ireland. John O'Donovan, thanks as always. Cheers.
Thank you.
Get on to Prendeville now.
0818 104 106.
The Neil Prendeville Show on Red FM.